The biggest story from this election will be the media. We have seen a massive imbalance in the media for years, decades even. And you have the hard right papers like the Sun, the Mail, the Telegraph, but probably a bigger story is how the BBC have dropped the ball on so many occasions. Some of the problems with the clips, for instance, it may have just been human error, but the problem is that when you have so many of those problems happening over and over again, it's clear that checks and balances aren't in place to actually keep that impartiality going. The BBC should be auditing the fact that the majority of their most senior journalists are right-wing and what effect that has on news programming. I think the other problem as well is that once these problems happen, the number of people who see the corrections is far fewer. So a couple of years ago, Laura Kuenssberg interviewed Jeremy Corbyn about the shoot-to-kill policy, and she asked him a question. He gave one answer. She asked a different question later on, and it was edited by the BBC so that it looked as though Jeremy Corbyn was answering a completely different question to the answer he had given. So the BBC Trust found that didn't adhere to its policies. But when it came to the London Bridge attack, that clip of Laura Kuenssberg and Jeremy Corbyn was shared repeatedly. So very, very few people in comparison knew that it was an incorrect clip, that there had been a BBC ruling against it, that an apology had been issued, but that clip was shared over and over again. And I think the Conservatives realised very early on that that happens at the BBC, so there's no reason why they can't do it. So the Conservatives used social media to lie repeatedly. We saw during one debate they renamed themselves Fact Check UK, and with fake news over and over again, we can talk about how we can combat it, but the problem is that as soon as it's out there, far, far fewer people will see any correction than will have seen the original falsehood.
Yes,
and that's how they cling on.
Yeah.